Thank you, Madam Chair. Our very first full committee hearing centered the homelessness epidemic, and the issue of housing has remained a priority ever since then on this committee, and I'm grateful for your leadership. We speak often of the American dream. The reality is that most experience American struggle in order to realize the American dream, which means that what is synonymous with the American experience is hardship. It is something that is transcendent. And so, Mr. Williams, I want to thank you for being here today. You, in a moment, removed the shame that millions are experiencing by so bravely sharing your story, and also are challenging the narrative because of the constant stereotyping for whom is vulnerable to eviction. When, so far as I can tell, and the data supports, this is an epidemic. And in fact, I would even consider it a moral crisis. Families are not vulnerable to eviction because they're just broken. We have broken families because of broken systems and broken promises. And I think because of a deficit of empathy. When your son Jalen said to you, "Dad, you didn't do anything wrong," he was exactly right. Because you are representative of the many admirable, honorable, hardworking people for whom life just got in the way, because hardship is transcendent. And it is now incumbent upon us to make sure that more people in the midst of that American struggle can recover in order to realize the American dream. Professor Desmond, you have rightly said that eviction isn't just a condition of poverty, it is a cause of poverty. Eviction is a direct cause of homelessness, but it also is a cause of residential instability, school, and community. However, the lack of data around this issue is stark. It seems that we are choosing to know as little about the scale of the eviction crisis as possible. We have absolved ourselves of the responsibility to act. Professor Desmond, very briefly, why does data matter?
Without data, we design policy in the dark. We do not know the size of the programs or the effect of the programs that work.
And many believe that this eviction crisis is limited to private rentals. HUD has certainly not bothered to provide evidence to the contrary, but you have, Professor Desmond. So what has your data collection shown about the reality of evictions in public housing?
By our estimates, public housing is responsible for filing about 1 out of 24 eviction filings. So if that is generalizable to our large estimate, it means that public housing authorities file about 428 evictions every day in America. We also found that public housing authorities serially evict file, which means that the same family in the same unit is filed for eviction month after month after month in many public housing authorities. According to our statistical models, living in a public housing unit actually increases your chances of being serially evicted on by about 17%.
Wow. And HUD does not use eviction rates as a tool for grading public housing authorities or PHAs, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We know eviction laws and processes vary throughout the country. Professor Desmond, what are some of the trends that you see emerging?
Housing laws are really variegated all across the United States. What we've found is that when it costs more to evict someone, landlords use eviction court less. For example, when the filing fee for an eviction is above $200, there's a 15% decrease in serial evictions in a county. When landlords who are LLCs or companies are required to hire attorneys, there's about a 30% decrease in serial evictions. Just briefly, serial evictions really matter for your bottom line. They increase a family's housing costs by about 20% because of late fees and added court fees. So it's not just the indignity of going to eviction court over and over again, it really has a financial cost as well.
Thank you, Professor Desmond. I represent the Massachusetts 7th Congressional, one of 2 states. We actually do have right to shelter laws, but when public housing tenants have faced evictions are ineligible, it simply isn't enough. That is why I've worked with advocates across my district to develop my bill, the Housing Emergencies Lifeline Program, or the HELP Act. The HELP Act includes grants for emergency housing assistance, funding for right to counsel, the development of a HUD eviction database, and changes to the credit reporting of evictions. When every 4 minutes a household faces eviction, there's no shortage of families that I believe will benefit from this legislation. Thank you.